If you are a journalist in Italy, no matter what particular beat you cover, if you do it for long enough, there's a chance you'll encounter organized crime, the mafia. Then it's decision time. You can either steer clear of the story or prepare for what's to come. Your home can be firebombed, or your car. Bullets can end up in your mailbox. Over the past 5 years alone, 2,000 journalists say they have been threatened. Dozens of them live like Pino Magnaci and Lirio Abbate do, under police protection.
When you live with the mafia, you get to know its language. First, they send you a signal. Maybe a colleague will tell you to be careful, that they are upset, that there are friends who are unhappy with what you're writing. You could find a dead animal outside your house, or they can break into your house to make you understand that they can come and go as they please, that you are in their grip. If you can live with that and you face it down, then they move on to other methods.
Some years back, the police commissioner got in touch with me. A mafia informer had been arrested, and he claimed that various mafia bosses from the Palermo province had decided to kill me. This was 2008, 2009, so I have now been under police protection for 7 or 8 years. I have to say it's not easy, but obviously we accept it for the sake of our work. The latest threats came last December, when we found my dogs hanged.
The mafia doesn't like media coverage, and it likes it even less when it hits the headlines. Up until 2009, Lirio Abbate reported on the Sicilian Mafia from Palermo for the news agency ANSA and La Stampa newspaper. He exposed links between politicians and the notorious boss of bosses, Bernardo Provenzano, who is now serving multiple life sentences. Abbate was publicly threatened by local mobsters and moved to Rome. There, working for L'Espresso, a national news magazine, he broke the story on what's called the capital mafia.
They had links to politicians, and we published their names, their pictures, and that's the kind of thing that hurts the mafia more than 10 judicial inquiries. That's what they want to put a stop to. But no other newspaper echoed what I'd written, and we were left completely on our own.
Siamo rimasti soli.
We do have a self-censorship problem, but I think that the majority of journalists who've received mafia threats have responded with great professional dignity. And I'm not even thinking about journalists from the major newspapers who are well-resourced and high-profile enough for that to be their first line of defense. I'm talking about local, small-town journalists, freelancers, reporters from villages in Calabria and Sicily, people under 30 who earn €3 per article.
The mafia was born in Sicily before spreading to the mainland and abroad, and the geography of this story affects the way it is reported.
In Italy, the divide between the north and the south has been a feature of the country since its unification a century and a half ago. Like most of Italy's industries, the mainstream news media are not based here in the south, but further north, in Rome and Milan, where the money is and the power lies. That reflects in the coverage of the South in general and the mafia story in particular.
And it means the work of local outlets becomes even more relevant. Teleiato is a small family-run TV station based in Partinico, just west of Palermo, Sicily's capital. Known for its anti-mafia reporting, its daily news bulletins, hosted by Pino Magnaci, attract up to 150,000 viewers, big numbers for a local news market.
Good journalism has to cut deep. It becomes indispensable to the community.
Ci sono dei giornali, continuiamo a dire che non sono buoni nemmeno per avvolgerci le sarde salate, ma che ricevono contributi dallo Stato.
It's a reference point for the public. This is just the way it should be. After all, we are just stating the facts. You get to know a place, and you write about it. Ordinary people whose job it is to report what's going on, which is what every journalist should do.
The mainstream media's regional coverage is often very limited in the south, apart from a few major titles such as Naples Il Mattino. Today, the South accounts for half of the territory, but only a third of the population, so the broadsheets will deign to send the correspondence only when something's happened, rather than doing it before the event and actually getting them to investigate.
Various mafia groups have been known to infiltrate the media and spin their own stories through shadowy business links with publishers, corrupt journalists, and even ownership. In Campania, in the early 2000s, a journalist was fired from the Corriere di Caserta newspaper on the orders of a local boss. The story came to light just last year. Further north, in Emilia, TV journalist Marco Gibertini was arrested in January 2015 for colluding with the mafia.
In
Italy, certain newspapers are actually owned or have been owned by mafiosi, by businessmen with close ties to the mafia. So then they make use of their TV stations or newspapers in order to broadcast mafia-friendly news, covering issues that are of interest to mafia or attacking people, magistrates or investigators.
The mafia now operates through much more sophisticated means. If before it would have preferred certain things to remain silent, now it understands in this media climate it's much more important to diversify the message, to obscure and mystify. So the approach is to spin the story, to feed one line that will serve as a cover for the one that you wish to remain hidden. It's about misleading people, distracting them. Weapons of mass distraction, as some joker put it.
This even affects major publishing houses, where, at times, they're obliged to strike non-aggression pacts with local mafia groups. This means what actually gets published suffers from a lack of reporting about anything connected to mafia activities. Cases like that of Mario Ciancio, the publisher in charge of Sicily's main newspaper, who's now being investigated for criminal association with the mafia.
Institutions that endure learn to evolve, adapt to changing times. These days, the Italian Mafia is more likely to plant stories than flex its muscles. They're more likely to spin news narratives than attack the messenger. They have moved beyond omertà, the hard and fast code of silence, and towards a more subtle media strategy. And in that respect, they're not unlike the government, the church, and the other Italian institutions with whom they share power.